So you guys out there were pretty shocked by this Ellen DeGeneres news shakeup. But let me tell you guys something. Us? I don't know, not so much. Okay. So today, this is Taylor, you guys. How's it going? I'm the blonde holding it down, but I feel like we have a little trifecta today. So we have another blonde, Chelar Vale, who's a longtime working actress in Hollywood. And we have a fan fave, the black babe, Sade Spence. So it's like we have the three Bs, right?
Yeah.
So we're hopping on. What?
I love that intro, by the way. The black baby. I love it.
The bees. We somehow have to make the bees work, and this is how we're making the bees work in this bee, literally. You know what I mean? Shit. So I want to tell you guys, this is going to be kind of surprising to you. Other women in this business I reached out to talk about this debacle on the podcast. These are people like I know, I've, acquaintances with. They either ghosted me or wouldn't want to talk about it.
Wow. That's
What part of this whole thing did they not want to talk about? Did you ask them? Did they touch on that?
I actually didn't, because I think I was so shocked. It's like, are you that, like, this to me, we're going to obviously peel it back and get into it, but this is so obvious to talk about. It's like, you're that afraid to, like, I don't know, burn bridges or ruin connections or your reputation, that this is something you won't even talk about. That to me is crazy.
I agree with you. It's like you're not wanting to burn a bridge that might take you over the river to a place that's, conducive to having so much abuse in the workplace. Like, why would you?
Yeah. I'm like, why is that bridge worth it if you're trying to protect a system that clearly has some flaws? I don't know.
So,
we'll get into it, I guess.
100%. So I think we can all agree that this is sort of warranted, because obviously this is not a one-time cancellation from something someone said back in the day. This is like a repetitive, reoccurring thing that's really unacceptable. So if you could give me like the cliff notes, where do you guys each stand on this? And what was your reaction? Because honestly, we all knew about this for years.
Yeah. I agree.
Well, I guess Cliff Notes version. Okay, so my whole thing is like, I don't know Ellen, never worked on like Ellen's show or anything like that. And there's this huge debacle going around it. And I think, celebrities, with the whole pandemic, celebrities already have been like reamed time after time, because we're like, you guys are so out of touch. Like, you're talking about how we're all, going through this together while you're in your mansion and everybody else is like losing their jobs and this and that. So like, I think it's strange when, okay, there's hardly anybody coming to Ellen's defense, right? It is like deafening. And those that have are mainly celebs, which I find really interesting. And I feel like if people are only celebs coming to your aid, those are the people that you treat the best. And as we know, character is defined as who you are when no one's looking. And in this case, no one is probably everybody who works for her, because they are like no one. I say that in air quotes compared to celebrities. So I don't know. I feel like there's some truth to it. I don't know her, but I feel like there's got to be some underlying truth that this is going on for years. And, I think it's also weird that people don't want to speak out about it or have thoughts about it, because a workplace is a workplace. You should have thoughts on how people are treated in a workplace.
100%. And like you're saying, someone isn't going to treat Katy Perry, who, by the way, came out and defended Ellen, the same way as a PA or a runner getting your donut. It's like, I'm sorry. And
people, quotations.
Right. Chelar, what do you think that, because I know when you and I were texting about it, you mentioned how this sort of like toxicity, especially with women, is something that has been going on in this business and people don't talk about, because I feel like there's such a thing of like, women have to stand behind women. And it's like, yes, absolutely. But at the same time, this stuff is happening. So are we not allowed to call that out and let this stuff persist? Like, what is your take from being on sets and behind the scenes for so many years?
I was actually just having this conversation with a neighbor, kind of explaining to someone who has no experience in the entertainment industry. And it's like a culture that clearly has been around for like forever, for the longest time. And it's like being on set, it can be kind of surreal because you've got, we're talking the whole culture of this year with what's going on in police brutality, Black Lives Matter, all of that. On sets, I'm sure you guys have experienced it too. You really have like discrimination going on as far as like if you're an extra on set, you are treated completely different. You get instructions not to look the stars or the host in the eye. Don't give them eye contact.
Can I interject?
Never approach. Yeah.
Can I interject quickly?
How they're treating them? Extras, you should be grateful to be there, that sort of thing.
Yes, absolutely. And then you don't even get to eat first. You have to there's a special area for extras to eat or a special time for them to get their food. And
well, I just wanted to interject because it's so funny you say that specific, like, don't look the talent in the eye, which is what a lot of people who worked on the Ellen show are alleging, like that specific thing. What the fuck is with that? Don't look you in the eye. I'm sorry. What are you like? What is it? Kryptonite? And I'm back. What is it? Like Medusa?
I know.
Apparently she's really shy, which I get. A lot of people in the public eye that are actors and things like that, they say that they tend to be shy. However, I think especially when you work in the world of entertainment and you are a reporter, how shy can you, or a host, how shy can you really be? Like, your whole job is to interact and communicate. So even if you are shy, there's a difference between being shy and like removed and or rude.
Absolutely. And don't you feel too with Ellen, you've got the star side of it. Obviously, she needs to have major stars come on. That's part of her platform. And so she has that connection with them. But if she is shy, and that's an issue, when you're on set, she also has this platform of reaching out to the common man, that like she's trying to help people who are down and out or people who have been discriminated against that aren't movie stars. And so that being said, some of those people might be on set with her, being an extra or somebody who is in the stands or in the crowd, or a PA that just came to LA. How can you peddle that mentality on your show and then not practice it? So I kind of was thinking about it, like, are you peddling this be kind thing, or are you actually practicing it?
Well, I think that's why so many of her former employees are so infuriated. And I mean, I've read every piece. I read the original Variety piece from the spring. I read the BuzzFeed one that came out in July of all of these former employees saying these stories, which why would they what would be their motive, first of all? And these things all just line up. And I think that's the hypocrisy, is like, you're making a killing, you're making a fortune preaching about kindness, and then you are firing someone who had to work from home for a day because they went to a funeral. And it's just like, I think it's just such a bigger issue of how in Hollywood, like, we're so deceived by these images. And also like the egos, like I'm sure you both have seen and dealt with egos, male or female, and how destructive that is.
Oh yeah, I mean, totally. I just really wonder with like what you were saying, like for someone who's considered to be shy, like how do you uphold this like kind, like you have a whole kind persona, right? But then in your workplace, you're letting things slide, or you're supposedly disconnected. But how can you think that you have a place that's kind if you're like disconnected? And I don't think that can be just ego if your whole thing is supposed to be kind. Like, it doesn't, I feel like there's something weird missing there. And maybe that's because she removed, according to everyone else, she removed herself from even knowing the rest of her staff. So she oversaw a lot of things and just like completely over her head. But I still think you have that responsibility. And it's weird because I'm sure you guys know too that it's considered like the Disneyland of like talk shows to work at. Like everybody's like, I want to work at Ellen. It's the Disneyland places to work. And I know someone who worked there for a short amount of time, and so when they got there, they had a little bit of a shell shock. Like, oh, like it's not. Like I actually have this kind of like weird like fear, or you don't really speak out about things, and that they were also instructed, you don't really look at her or talk to her. And I was like, well, how do like meetings work? How do like morning meetings work? Like when you're going over, this segment or that segment, it's like relayed through someone else. Like what is that? You like an interpreter because you're that shy? I think there's something really weird there. And I don't know if it's just ego, because could you really be like, I'm such a huge host in the industry and I preach kindness and I don't talk to my staff? I don't know.
What do you guys think about this? And I know it infuriates me on a personal level because, like, we talk about this all the time. I would kill for a platform like that, and I would never in a million years, I don't care if it's the janitor, I don't care who it is. Like, in a million years, your name is on the show, bitch. Like, I'm sorry. That's just how the cookie crumbles. What do you guys think? Because I think it was one of the celebs. I don't think it was Katy Perry, but one of the celebs argued, you know, she's been such a pioneer for gay rights and human rights, so don't treat her this way. Okay, well, what? Both who?
I know Kevin Hart and Jay Leno. Jay Leno was talking about how much money she donated, which is like weird for you to know the number like that.
I just feel like one doesn't excuse the other, and they can both be true. Like, what do you guys think? Chelar, I see you shaking your head.
Yeah, I actually just posted something about this recently that not Ellen related, but related to character. Like, yes, she has done a lot of great things. I mean, don't get me wrong. And I'm not a huge fan where I'm watching it all the time. I actually just tried to watch a bunch of videos just before watching this, just to make sure I kind of saw what was going on right now. But she has done a lot of good things. So we're not saying she hasn't, but just because you are really good at one thing, or you put your efforts in one area and you let other areas lapse and other people are, being harmed by your behavior or the culture that you have on your set, just because she does good over here doesn't excuse this. So we're not talking about that. It's kind of like the good cop, bad cop situation we're having right now. There are a lot of good cops out there, but we're not focusing on the good cops. We're focusing on the bad cops, and that needs to be fixed. And I find it rather disgusting that that's not being addressed right now. That, like, for Portia to come forward and Katy Perry to come forward and back her, that's not what our discussion is. Clearly you back her, you're married to her, and you're a good friend. So clearly we know that you back her, but there's something going on that needs to be addressed. And I feel disappointed that that's, she's not coming out and saying that, and, Portia's post.
So to your point, and I was actually going to bring this up. So Portia, her wife, posted a hashtag on Instagram, I stand with Ellen. And I swear to you, I posted it on my Instagram and people were coming out of the woodwork. Like, what the fuck? Like, people are salivating to talk about this. So clearly,
I posting it, and I was a little petty, and I had to check how many posts were actually under the hashtag at the moment. There were like less than 100 in support of the hashtag, and I was like,
why do you think? I mean,
like that absence is loud.
Yeah, and also the fact that it's liked by celebrities like Kris Jenner and Courtney Cox, like. Yeah. Why, like I said, I put it on my story and people were super fired up and reactive. Like, obviously, does it just show how tone deaf and like how you're ignoring the problem? Like, do you not see it? What about it do you think has people so like, what the fuck, up in arms?
It's like such a double standard, because the last few years we've been dealing with Me Too, Time's Up, and putting out there, listen to the victim. You have to listen to the victim. And right now it's not about the victims. It's about Ellen and trying to, I'm sorry, what? I didn't hear you.
Straight up out of touch.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, we understand the victim, but then they can't seem to grasp it when they aren't the victim for that one moment. They can't grasp that, like, we, the normal people that do day-to-day jobs where we're not waited on by other people at all times of the day, are treated by other people rudely on a regular basis. I mean, the same thing kind of goes, like you were mentioning BLM earlier, like some people can't fathom that, like, Black people are treated horribly in this country, but it's like, but it does exist. Just because you aren't treated poorly by police officers, or there isn't like anti-Black sentiment, you don't feel that because you aren't Black, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Same for the people at her workplace. Like, if horrible culture is going on and they're being subjected to it, you don't work at Ellen. You're like a guest of honor when you go to Ellen. Why would you ever experience that?
And it takes away from the issue. Like, it takes away, whether it be like, it just takes the focus away. So it would be like if 3 dozen Jeffrey Epstein accusers came forward and all the stories were the same, but they were like, no, but he's great. It's like, okay, but like, what about what they had to say? Just curious. Like, do we not care? Like, what's the situation?
Like, but if they said, like, he has so much money, he donated here. Yeah, but
Right.
I also, when, you know, we're talking about not really wanting to hear from the stars, because clearly they're going to be treated very well because that's the bread and butter of the show. But at the same time, when I was looking through the videos, there are videos of her actually, in my opinion, bullying certain stars into divulging information that clearly is off limits. And she doesn't drop in press. Like, I was just watching one with Taylor Swift, where she was playing a game with her, wanting her to chime a bell if she dated the guy that's in the picture or something. And she's like, oh, here, let me chime it for you. And she took the bell away from her because Taylor kept pleading, please, I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to, you know, I don't want to talk about someone I've dated. I don't want to admit to certain things. And watching it was kind of shocking. I didn't see those episodes, but I read about Mariah Carey, you know, having her force, like, announcing a pregnancy.
While she's pregnant, like,
yeah.
It's also, to me, like, again, all these examples one after the other, and how are people still pussyfooting around it, right? So, like, one example are the people who wouldn't even come on this podcast to talk about it, but even I did like a Google ass sweep before this because I was like, I need to see how people are reporting this, how they're reporting the I Stand With Ellen hashtag. And you guys, even like the female-centric sites, like all these sites, no one really, I'm talking Vanity Fair, Refinery 29 was maybe the most like critical. No one really called her out. And all the headlines about Portia's post, they were all like, Portia speaks out, Portia stands by Ellen. None of them are like, hi guys, please descend from Mars and come to Earth. Like, why? Which I find crazy.
And how can Portia stand by Ellen? Is she on set with her every day? Does she know how the staff is treated? Why would she even say, I stand by her? It's not like she's been cheating on her. It's not a relationship issue. It has nothing to do between the two of them. It has to do with her show and how people are treated that work on that set. And I find it appalling that she's starting a hashtag I Stand With Ellen.
And like, Sade, we both are writers. Like, how many times have we gotten pushback from editors being like, just do the neutral, PC, you know, okay thing.
I was just about to say and chime in on that. Like, my problem with a lot of these, like, female-centric outlets, or not even the female-centric ones, just, like, in general, I know we all want to be, like, positive and uplifting.
Right.
And I get that. I want to be positive, uplifting too, but sometimes we can't make real change and get to that positive place if we're going to overlook all the dirt before that. Like, we can't get to rainbows and all that stuff without some rain and letting some real shit wash away. Like, let's be clear. Like, the same thing applies to BLM. We can't be like, oh, let's all love each other and black and white's gonna live like together perfectly. It's like, we can't just rush to the finish line of peace. So I feel like a lot of these outlets, they're always like, yeah, well, we want to uplift. There's an outlet I wrote for, and they always wanted me to write about the Kardashians, and honestly, like, that family, like, I can't with them. And yeah, they do some good at times or whatever, but like, I'm a black woman and they're culture vultures, and that's like always present to me, and it's always present in their brand and their everyday lives. So like, when they're always like, yeah, write about this, and, you know, we want it to be uplifting, and it's like, that's great, it's uplifting, but like, this part of their brand, like, you want me to skip the part where it's like, they stole that and they borrowed that or didn't mention that? Like, I'm going to slide this in. So yeah, but at the end of the day, I think a lot of these outlets, they just want to like kind of skirt past it because they want to be on essentially on the celebrity side and look really happy and positive. And I think that too many outlets they're too comfortable with trying to be celebrity adjacent and please the celebrity. And like, that's not the point of reporting. That's not the point of journalism. It's like facts, not like opinions. Like, if you want somebody to like suck up to them, that's the job of like, I guess, media personalities.
Thank you. Put that on my tombstone. Goodbye. That exactly. And it's also like on a personal level, all the way up to such a high profile media level, like if this year has shown us anything, it's like, what the hell do you have to lose? Like, what are you afraid of? What are you afraid of coming on a podcast to talk about how this isn't okay with a high profile celebrity? What do you have to lose posting an article saying this isn't okay? Like, what are you like, there is no holds bar anymore. Like, what could you still possibly be afraid of? Honestly.
It's really sad because clearly people still are afraid and feel that if they do speak out, they're not going to get work. And that's such a shame. And it is a protection to those who do abuse people within the entertainment industry. They know that in general, most people are afraid to speak out because, especially if you're not super famous already, that you're not going to get work, you're going to get blacklisted, and it makes it so that people stay quiet. And I'm surprised, though, that nobody wanted to talk when you had reached out.
What do you
I think our industry is well, too many people wanting to be celebrity adjacent.
Right.
It's not be celebrity, TBH.
Yep.
Like
100%. That's the name of the game, but still, like, everything's thrown out the window, all the rules. Like, why are you guys still, kissing their assholes, as I like to put it?
Right. Don't you feel like Ellen does that too, though? Because in some of the videos I was watching, and it just jogged my memory because of the shows I have watched. Like, what times I really like watching her is when Justin Bieber is on there. My son and I love watching that, and it's fun, and they kind of have a cute banter going back and forth. But watching one video after another today, I don't know if it's an insecurity thing, I don't know what it is, but she does like to talk about my good friend this person, my good friend that person, and I feel like there's a desire on her part maybe to keep treating these people in a certain way to stay within their circles. I find sometimes hosts of shows like that who aren't, actors or musicians that are actually performing do kind of have this fakeness about them in a way, trying to reel in that big star and keep them there.
Jimmy Fallon is the same way, right? Like, the joke is how everything someone does, like, someone could literally sneeze or like step on a piece of gum, and he's like, I love that. Oh my God, that was the best thing. Which brings me to my next point, is the difference between the male and female. And so much of what people are saying online, which I find crazy because I'm like, now you guys are reaching, is how if this were happening with a very prominent male TV host, it wouldn't be treated the same. But because she's a woman and labeled a bitch or this or that, but if it were a man, it'd be like, oh no, that is excusable.
He just lays down the law, like this is how he runs it, that sort of thing, like macho, because people like to give men that, like, it's okay for them to be macho, but as soon as a woman is anything other than submissive or, over apologetic, then like you said, she's like a bitch or too much. I don't know. At the same time, according to all these stories, it seems like there's something else wrong there. But I know what you mean in terms of like men would get like a slide.
Well, because like I disagree with that notion. I feel like especially, like in real life, yes, like there are certainly times when a woman will be assertive and they're labeled a bitch, and a guy, it's like, that's a boss. But like this is a case where I'm like, that's a reach, because if a Jimmy Kimmel or someone had these same accusations, especially because of like Me Too era and everything that's happened, and everyone like sitting around on their phones, like looking for things to like, get behind and rally behind. I just feel like the same sort of downfall would happen for a dude right now. Like, I don't really feel like gender has anything, I don't know, in this specific case, has anything really to do with it.
Well, I think prior, the whole like macho versus like bitchy woman thing would be an issue. But I do think right now, since everybody's got time, like they don't care who they're canceling, right? I think it's just like a cancel fest. So I do agree in that sense, but I think like let's say this was like maybe a year or two ago, it'd be more like but now people are really, they're itching for something to do. They're
behind it. Chelar, what do you think in terms of like the male versus female treatment?
Well, as you know, I've been in entertainment, so I've seen it there, but I also have, raising my son, I've worked at like top firms in Los Angeles in investment banking and in architecture, and I see that same mentality there. You'll see male executives getting away with a lot more than any female executive. In fact, one time I've heard of a female executive having to get a life coach and do all sorts of things to try and help her harsh behavior improve, where I never heard of that for the man. And so there is that. But if we're like talking about Ellen, it'll be interesting to see the stories that are actually validated and are truthful and not just hearsay, because some of the hearsay stories that I've been hearing and reading about, it's not behavior that it's a tough boss where a woman would be construed as being a bitch and a guy is just being hard on his employees. We're not talking about that. We're talking about firing someone possibly for looking at them or having bad breath. I've heard those stories. I don't know if they're true, but that kind of stuff is not, I don't care if you're a man or a woman, like you don't treat your staff that way. And then you have staff who are afraid to even approach you or be around you, God forbid, if they look at you incorrectly, whatever your issues are with that, and then they might be fired the next day. And I've seen that on set, not with Ellen. I've never been on Ellen's show, but I've seen and I've heard it where an extra was maybe looking at them wrong or said something, and I've heard the actual, person that either is the principal or the high up producer whisper to somebody on set and say, get rid of that person. I don't want them here. And they did nothing other than just standing over on the side, being an extra and looking over and apparently looking at them the wrong way. So I think that mentality, it'll be interesting to see what's actually happening on her set.
Sade, I bet that this is vindicating for your friend who worked there.
She's like, well, she was only there for a short amount of time. So if that's any indication to you. Yeah.
And she still saw the wrath. Well, did you guys see that the DJ who worked on her show for a few years posted on Instagram being like, there was toxic behavior. I witnessed it. I saw it.
He was saying he worked for her back in like 2003 to whatever. And then another date, like 2006, 2008. And I just thought that was really interesting for him to be like, yeah, it was toxic. But the times he worked there were like almost a full 20 years back where I'm like, dude, you were like, you just decided to dip. Like, you didn't say anything. I guess maybe, it's a different time and people weren't really outing their bosses as much back then. But I just find it interesting that, like, 20 years later, you're like, yeah, it was toxic.
No, right, exactly.
Like,
I second that.
Like, that's it. Like, his post is just like, oh, yeah, people have been asking me what it was like there. Yeah, it was toxic. Like, and then, like, into the post, out.
It
sucked. No, exactly. What do
Has
you
Ellen actually said anything about it? I was trying to find a video. Has she even come out and made any sort of statement?
She did. It was the most glazed over, like, snooze fest, whatever publicist, prepped this for her, like, really needs to, like, step it up a notch, because it was basically just like, I'm sad that this behavior was going on, kind of saying, like, I didn't really know, but it makes me sad that this was sort of going on in my workplace, and, like, not really taking any real accountability. Would you agree, Sade? Like,
yeah, it sounded like she was removing herself and like trying to take responsibility, but also trying to make sure that everybody knew it wasn't really her fault. It was more along the lines of like, my name's on the show and I'm gonna take responsibility for that. Unfortunately, I wasn't directly involved with these people, so I did not know. And it's kind of like when people say like, "Oh my God, yeah, I like did blackface. I'm so sorry, I didn't mean it." Buy my, cream or like vitamins or shit tea or whatever.
And I think you guys, like, for you guys listening, we're not out to crucify Ellen. Like, we are not on a witch hunt for this lady. We're simply three women behind the scenes in this business who, as we do call it, we're calling it as we see it. And I think it's just sort of like the hypocrisy and the injustice that, like anything else we would want to see with BLM, with Me Too. It's like, take accountability. You know what I mean? Like, you guys both know, and I've said it in previous episodes, like, I hate cancel culture. I think it's so destructive for what we do, Sade, as journalists, for everything. But at the same time, it's like, this is not cool. And in Hollywood, it's such a trendy thing right now for people to, like, look to the top and say, fix it. What is the expression? Like, the head of the snake, like, fix it from the top down. And if you're going to, like, say that and be part of it, you need to be walking that walk, man. Like, you can't just be saying it and then have this behavior go on for years. It's just not okay.
Especially, as you said,
put your money where your mouth is. Everyone's like, yeah, you've been preaching this, la, 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 let's all, fix this. They're like, so now it's time. Which
Yeah,
I don't know,
absolutely.
now it looks like they want to replace her. People want the show axed or replace her. I don't know. What do you guys think? Because I mean, I'm all for a good dragging. I'm not really good here. I always say that I'm like, I don't mind a good drag because that's how you're gonna learn. But when it comes to the canceling part, I'm not all for. So what do you guys think is gonna happen?
I feel like I'm against the canceling thing when it's, someone blinked a wrong way in 1922 in like an old photograph and now like they can't ever work again. I think that's ridiculous. But in this case, I have to say, and this is really against my core belief, but again, it's like this wasn't a slip up one time. This clearly is an indicator of someone's behavior over a period of a very years and years and years. So in this case, it's a little tainted, is it not? Who would even want to work on the show now? Who would want to be on as a guest? What does that say about you? Like, stand up for what's right.
I agree. I feel like she's not she's not putting time and energy publicly for us to see that she actually cares about this situation. I feel like that's where the focus should be, and it is very indicative that it's been going on for quite some time. So, like I said earlier, it goes to her character, and obviously we all make mistakes and we should all have a chance to better ourselves and evolve from them. But like you said, on this one particular occasion, it's not just one slip up. It's not something she said or tweeted years ago. It's a pattern of behavior that has affected a lot of people and hurt a lot of people. She's all about the hurt.
Right. What do you guys think about, because we witnessed this so much, like Sade with interviewing celebs, like the diva behavior, right? Like the amount of times on a red carpet I've seen a female celebrity hand their clutch, hand their purse, hand their laptop, hand their dress train to their publicist, and they walk on by, right? And to me now it's like, okay, so how do you differentiate, like, what's the difference between like fun diva behavior and actually like you're just being an asshole now,
Like not knowing their name.
Right.
Like they can't look you in the eye. I mean, that part is crazy to me because I think, I probably seem super outgoing, but like I consider myself like an introverted extrovert because sometimes I don't really like being all out there. But like if I'm gonna go into a room, I'm gonna at least say hi to everybody. I'm gonna like look you in the face because I want to, talk to you, validate that you're here. I'm here. Hello. If you own a company, I would think I would want to at least validate everybody and let them know, like, hey, like, I'm Ellen, you're working for me, like, this is going to be great. Because apparently she tells everybody on their first day or whatever, something to the effect of, like, I'm so happy you're here, or, like, this is going to be a great place to work. Like, they said that, like, that's the motto, or go, like, during meetings or something that happens. So you need to communicate that for reals. Like, how can you oversee and be the star of this entire show and, like, not truly communicate with the people that work there and run it, but you're over here trying to, warm the hearts of people over TV that aren't anywhere close to you?
Right.
That's a problem.
Well, and it is her show, like you said. Her name's on the show, and she's been around for long enough to where we all know she has the power to set the culture on her show, on her set. And if there are problems and she's not involved, which I don't really believe anymore from what we're hearing, but if that's the case and it's other people, she has the power to change that, and she hasn't changed that. It's been going on for quite some time, and I find it hard to believe that any producer of her show would have more power over her than she has over the show herself.
Right. And that's why too I bring it to ego, because it sort of sets the tone. Like they even say when you're on a movie, right? You guys, for those of you listening, it's called a call sheet, and it has every single person from the actors to the crew to the people serving the food, everything. And the very first person is like Harrison Ford, it's Leo DiCaprio, it's Brad Pitt, whatever. And they always say it's the start of the movie, and that person sets the tone for the entire set, like trickle down. And that's why I bring you know, I brought ego into it because you think about, like, I've heard these stories, the same thing with Dr. Phil. Apparently on Dr. Phil's show, you can't only not look him in the eye. You guys are both nodding like crazy. Like, yep, you can't even not look him in the eye, but you can't even like walk in the same path as his, I've heard.
Here's what I think is interesting though, because yes, you know, Dr. Phil, I heard all of that he doesn't foster the warmest culture, but his show also isn't very warm. You know, like, to be fair, I'm like, when you watch a show on the daily, he's not nice. He's there to cut into, you know, whatever issues you and your family are going through, and people watch it not because he's like coddling them, but it's different when you see Ellen, who comes into your home through your television and seems so warm to a celebrity, but also, you know, to the little kid who's, I don't know, doing whatever at home or got attacked by something or suffering from a disease. So when you see her being so heartwarming to these people, but like the people you work with every day aren't getting that treatment, I feel like it's different. It's worse.
That's a really good point. And I think that's the theme of like 2020 is like what we think versus reality being like, no fuckers, this is actually what's going on. And it's like, right. So at face value, like if we think it's something, just be that. I say it so much on this podcast, like be about it. If you're going to be Dr. Phil and be an asshole, cool. We know you're an asshole. At least we know, like you're saying, Sade. It's out there. So before I let you lovely ladies go, I want to really dig into, we flirted with it earlier, but this whole idea of why we don't really talk about female on female power struggles, whether it be in the entertainment business. And I'm sure for you, those of you listening, this permeates through so many businesses. Like, I'm going to be honest with you, and this is not the popular thing to say. I feel like working for women is a fucking nightmare. I've had so many times where it's just like so much easier to work for a man. I'm going to be honest. What do you guys think? Like, do you have any experiences where it's like, I get it?
Yeah, no, I agree that it can be difficult to work for other women. And I feel like sometimes, you know, other women feel like because they can handle the same struggle you're going through, or it's perceived that they can, like whether you're feeling sick or you have children or, you know, you're going through your menstrual cycle or something like that, since they know that they've been through something like that too. And maybe because they think I can handle it, you can too. When the fact of the matter is we're all different and we all process things and, you know, receive things differently. So I feel like when it comes to those sorts of issues, like women can be really tough. Like I remember one time I asked for a personal day, and this is when I was like working at like Hollister like years ago, you know, like when you need your come up job in this industry. And the female manager told me no. After I'd been working so many days and I was so stressed out and I was just like, I can't handle this place. Like they also don't appreciate me. And I just wanted one day so I could like take a moment to like breathe and think. And she was like, no. I'm just like.
And even like in our business, like I've had editors and female publicists, like I'm not gonna lie, when I see a celebrity on a red carpet and they have a female publicist, I'm like, fuck, because I feel like they bust your balls, like they're gonna give me a harder time. And part of it is like I've had unnecessarily rude emails from female editors or pushback, and part of me thinks it's because like they overcompensate, because it's like, well, I can be as tough as a man, and it's like they're almost like a dick about it. Chelar, you're nodding. What do you think?
I agree. Like I've seen that happen. I haven't worked with that many women that were my boss, but the couple that I have were actually amazing. So I was lucky and fortunate enough to find someone who could mentor and be that person for me. I've encountered more men that do exactly what you were just describing, but I've worked with women who do work for women and encounter that. And I've seen it, you know, like not being part of the team and seen it happen. So I definitely feel, I agree with you, Taylor. I think that you struggle so long to get to that point, and you're treated a certain way by the boys club, that when you finally get into a position of power, all of that, like, is that tension or resentment, I don't know, is coming out, and you're just treating your employees the same way you were treated coming up to the position you're at.
Well, part of me wonders that with Ellen, because Sade, like, do you feel like with our generation there was like a boys club? Because I don't really feel that way, and I think about that with people like Ellen, where it's like she did have the struggle of like A, being a woman, B, coming out, all of this stuff. where like, I'm not trying to psychoanalyze her and I don't know her and I've never worked for her, but I'm just saying like, I also sometimes think the generation plays a part because I never personally felt that like boys club thing, you know, coming up in my career. Did you?
You know what? I would say not necessarily as much for like us, but what I felt like I encountered a lot more of, I feel like, especially with hosts, there's so many like women trying to be hosts. Not that men aren't, but I feel like there's so many women, and everybody feels like you're also my competition.
Yeah.
Rather than seeing there's space for all of us, I feel like that's a huge part of it. And I felt before that when I was either applying for jobs or like going through some sort of process where it's like I wasn't allowed to go any further because I think like the person who was in power, who was a woman, felt like this person might come and change too much, or like she might take my job, so like we're not going to do this, or you know, they kind of keep you at a certain level. I've also really encountered the passive aggressiveness, which drives me insane. I hate that the most. I hate it the most because I want you just to come out and tell me whatever it is you need. Like, but you do this like passive aggressive thing instead of just being assertive. And it's like, I'm going to be passive about it. And then the next time I'm just like super mean, you know, like, hey, can you do this? Like, that would be great. Or like, do you want to do this? That would be great. I'm like, do I? No. Are you asking me to do it? Like, well, which one is it? You know what I mean? And it's always this like passive aggressive circle. And that's the one thing I can't stand. And I find happens a lot when working with females.
How about on a red carpet? Me too.
Yeah,
I
have
can't.
encountered that, definitely.
And
the
how
passive aggressive, instead of just coming out, and especially when it happens over email, you like put the tone of the person's voice in there, and you may be taking it out of context, but the way it's written, yeah, I find women do that a little bit more.
And I think in comparison to men, that's where it also looks like so much worse, because at least like if a man's gonna say it, he's usually just direct. Like, can you?
Well, that's a thing. And with a woman, it'll be like,
do you think you could do XYZ? Like, maybe you could do XYZ. Right. And it's like, I told you to do XYZ. It's like, wait. First, you were like nice for like this time, and all of a sudden you're like ready to bite my head off, and I can't stand it. And I feel like that also happens a lot with like millennial women.
Yeah. Because
everybody's too busy. Like, I'm nice, and it goes back to that fake rainbows and stars and daffodils thing where everybody wants to be like the uplifting woman. But it's like, then just get to the point instead of being like, I'm going to be super duper nice and then I'm biting your head off.
Sade, how many times on a red carpet, like, you know, again, I bring it back to like our experience, but like has a male publicist being like, sorry, like Brad Pitt's not going to talk to you today. Boom, to the point, got it done. Here's the female publicist. Oh, like, okay, we're going to go bring him to get a pedicure and then a tuna melt and then fluff his hair and then we'll bring him back to talk to you, okay? And you're like, I know you're not, bitch. Like,
we'll bring it back. At least the guy will be like, we're running out of time, and I'll be like, I got one question, or I'll just be like, I'm asking it, and then they just usually like wait, and they're probably like, okay, because I'm not gonna beat around the bush either. But like, yes, I've had like the women that are always like, yeah, you know what, we're gonna be right back, and some of them have told the truth. I feel like that also depends on what outlet you're with as well, because there's the whole ego power trip now, depending on like what outlet you're working with and where is that outlet on the carpet, because you know publicists will like, they give you positions based off of like the notoriety, so there goes that whole ego side of the story. But yeah.
And I think obviously here, you guys, for those of you listening, like this is not at all like a women bashing women session. This is like, we're obviously three women, but we're just real about it, and this is shit that goes on. And Sade's right. Like people just like sugarcoat it and glaze over it and act like it doesn't exist. And they're the ones who are acting this way behind the scenes. So we just really want to like cut that stuff out. And like, really, if we really want to have like women on top, and, you know, not to be like it's innuendo, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like if you want to have like women running shit and supporting each other, then call it how it is and quit like bulldozing over it. That's not going to help. Like we're saying the stuff that's actually going on behind the scenes that people are afraid to talk about. How is that helping women? By pretending?
No. And we should all feel comfortable and safe enough to speak our mind and share our stories and talk about it. And clearly it's still an issue that people don't feel that.
I mean, Shlar, I can only imagine, and we're gonna wrap soon, but like when we were talking about like Sade, you made an amazing point about how competitive women can be in this business. Like Shlar, with you acting, I literally can't even imagine the stories you must have.
Yeah, it is. It's funny because oftentimes we try to help each other out, and if you have a question about something, whether it's about representation or a casting director, I often find you have that competitiveness where they don't even want to share information, and the information that they would share wouldn't put them out or take a role away from them. But there is that competitiveness where it's not. They want to say it's inclusive, like you like to be part of that acting community, but really oftentimes, even with male actors, I find if I ask a question about something or want to join something and they still don't want to share, there's that competitiveness of like worried that I might take something from them when we're not even in the same demographic, age or look, or we wouldn't be up for the same role. But there is that, yeah.
So, on an ending note, bringing it back to Ellen and how crazy it is, even though, again, like to us, it's not that crazy because we're like, okay, we knew, but like this stuff goes on all the time. What do you hope that people take from this whole thing happening? And like, why weren't you that surprised?
Do you want to?
I know. I was like, I don't want to. Go ahead, Chelar.
Like I said, I mean, I try not to judge people, but at the same time, I'm pretty good at getting a feel for what someone might be like. And through the years, I'm not surprised looking back at how she conducts herself on the show, that this has been happening. Like, to the extent of it that it's happening, I don't know. But I'm not surprised, not only because of her, but because of the entire industry. Like, again, like you were saying, I'm not trying to bash Ellen. My mom loves her, and I've watched it, and I've loved her shows, and I think she does amazing things. But there's this one part now that we need to figure out if she's really doing these things or having people being mistreated on set or getting fired for things and hurting people in that way, then it needs to be addressed, and that needs to change. Or I'm all for the cancel culture in this situation. And something that comes to mind is I'm always a huge Tom Cruise fan, but I don't know if you guys have heard. I've lived out in LA here for like 28 years now, and I've met countless people. I used to live in a building where my neighbor, they were filming at her relative's house, and anyone attached to it, neighbors that live in the neighborhood, it doesn't matter. They all talk about him like he's just this gracious guy. I've never met him. I don't know what he's really like, but the fact that the entire city talks about him in that way, like Manhattan Beach when they filmed Jerry Maguire, I knew a couple people that lived in the area, and they said he bought dinner for that whole neighborhood. And you just hear one countless story after another that isn't coming from the stars, it's coming from the little people. And the fact that the little people are talking so highly of him and have encountered him in that way, and they're not doing that for Ellen. We're not hearing low-level staff members, saying that this never happens. We're like now hearing these stories that it does happen. And I really just feel that it's a shame that it's not being addressed in the proper way. I went to her page, the interview you're talking about where she actually apologized. I saw headlines of it, but I couldn't find it. I don't know how far back it went, but literally on her page, the Ellen page, there's nothing. And I scrolled for a while, and I'm just kind of like, why is this not being addressed? This should be where you're focusing on, not a video of her crying her eyes out in pain for other people suffering for whatever reason, but yet she's not crying out in pain for her staff members, her family. That's her family. When you work on a crew, that's your family. And she's not crying. There's no tears for these people.
Yeah, be about it. Sade?
Yeah, well, I think I'd have to agree with Chelar basically, where I am not too surprised because this has been going on for a while. It's been like a slippery slope gradually over the years. Like, remember, it wasn't too long ago where Dakota Johnson was like, you didn't she outed her, where I was like, I'm not the hugest like DJ fan, but all of a sudden I was like, I might have to stan. Maybe, I don't know. She can be kind of weird in interviews too, but anywho, that's another story. But like Dakota called her out, and she's been called out like for a while now, from other celebrities, either like mentioning it just a little bit, and then people and staff have been saying it for a while, where after a while it seems like there has to be some truth to it. I don't know if all is true. I don't work there, haven't worked there, won't work there, because it probably won't be around in like the next few weeks. But honestly, I feel like there has to be some sort of underlying truth there, and it's probably that it wasn't the safest environment. You know, sexual misconduct going around, people feeling unsafe to bring up things that have happened to them, whether it be intimidation or, you know, that's trickled down. Because even though Ellen, let's say Ellen is shy, she actually is shy, but if she's keeping her hands out of things that are happening at the top level, that sort of ego trip trickles down to where the lowest, I say that with quotations because these people aren't low, they're working hard for their jobs, but if they are a PA and they're treated like trash, you know, that trickles down from what they see at the top. If the top treats everybody like trash, it's a trickle down effect.
100%.
So I think, you know, there's definitely some truth there. So that's why I'm not totally shocked. I do find it kind of interesting that all of a sudden we are having this huge, like, yep, looks like the show's going to be gone soon. But I think it's because people have time and they're at home.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I was going to say. Thank you guys so much for hopping on last minute. I was like, we need to, like I said, people were like shaking in their boots to talk about this for whatever reason. Again, it has people so shocked, and like us, I don't know, not so much. But if I want to leave you guys with anything, it's they're becoming my 3 favorite words. And it's not 2020 is shit. It's be about it. Be about it. Call something out. I don't care if you're the biggest feminist on earth and there's a woman being an asshole, or if it's a guy, or if it's Elmo, whoever it is, if it's Kim Kardashian's vagina, call it out and tell it how it is. Except don't be an internet troll, okay?
Yeah. I mean, faux feminism is trash. I can't stand that. You know,
trash.
Faux feminism. That's what I call it. Like the whole glossing over, like it's faux feminism.
It is. Like, take it out of the trash with 2020. Out. You know what? On December 31st, we'll take out faux feminism with the rest of the trash from this year. Guys, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me on. This was fun. I'm glad we got to hash it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
I know, it was really fun, and I wanted to have us 3 because it's like we're all in it, but it's like, again, we're different walks of life, different generations, different like parts of the business. So I think people need to know about it.
I agree. And what you just ended it with, you can't, I really believe you can't cherry pick when you are going to call things out. You can't call out one type of movement or one atrocity that's happening and then not call out the rest of them. Be consistent. Call it out, like you said, but be consistent and don't cherry pick when you do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Guys, thank you so much. Sade, you're going to do a YouTube video about this, right? I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, I am. So maybe I'll use some clips of this. We can talk about that later.
I'll send you the whole video so you'll have everything.
Okay, awesome. Perfect.
Guys, thank you so much. I'm so excited. I can't wait to get it up. Thank you guys for taking time out of your night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Love you both.
Bye. Love you guys too.
Bye.